in his absence. But we do have a quorum, so we should be ready to go ahead and get things kicked off. So with that, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from last month's meeting, the November 16th meeting. So if you've had a chance to read over those, I would entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. So is there any further discussion needed on the minutes? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, minutes are approved. Okay, so then that takes us to our next item, which is the access permits. So Scott, I'm going to hand it over to you for an update on that.
Sure. Access permits from NDOT, I have an updated list here. A lot of these don't change from month to month, but I would like to add we have a minor commercial permit with the Gothro Family Companies on State Road 38. This is just west of Creasy Lane. Again, we're waiting on some review comments. We've been trying to follow up. Last we followed up was in November, and we still have not received anything, so we're trying to kind of push that one along. Not sure why that one is running slowly, I'll put it that way. The other permits that are in progress, comments were sent out, and things are moving and progressing well on the fuel convenience store on US 52 State Road 28, the Mann Brothers Holding, as well as the make sure I get all this right. The Tippecanoe Howie, US 52 and County Road 450. So there's good progress back on that, comments and coordination, as well as the Sagamore Parkway major commercial with Mann Brothers again, West Lafayette. So these permits and comments and coordination has been going back and forth well. The permit on Newman Road roundabout, we're going to close that out. Should have been closed already. In sight of some information or an email that we weren't aware of, different permit manager. We're going to close this out. Everything is good. We'll continue to work with you. There's some things that we're going to take care of in-house. But we're going to consider this one closed, and that's being worked on right now. So that will come off the list. The Speedway at US 52 at Veterans Parkway, again, do not know why it's been delayed. We expect that to start up again in 23, but not until Q3. So not sure why. That's not been given to us or explained to us very well. Everything else is progressing very well. That includes Anvil 38, Yeager Road, Domino's, the Love's Truck Stop, Klondike Middle School. Everything is progressing nicely. So no issues at all. Any questions for me on any permit activity? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next item, which is an amendment for the Transportation Improvement Program. So this is for the county project along Yeager Road. So this project is on track for a January 19th letting. However, the required cost exceeds our annual allocation of funding. So in order to make up that deficit, we have planned to make a funding trade with another MPO where we will borrow some of their money this year and then repay that in fiscal year 24. So we have reached an agreement with the Northwest Indiana Regional Planning Commission for that trade. So everything is good to go from that perspective. But what we would like is approval of this amendment to the policy board so that they can kind of make that official and push things through to make that finalized. So I will take any questions if there are any. But otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
So move.
Seconded.
All right, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. All right, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So with that, then our next item is we're looking at doing a thoroughfare plan amendment. So in the 2050 MTP, we've kind of identified some areas of future residential and employment growth. One of those being kind of south of Lafayette near Concord Road. So within that area, there are two new subdivisions that are in the process of being developed, which will add a significant number of residential units. Currently, the number we have planned for is 1,000 new residential units. And additionally, we are expecting some employment growth in this area as well. So the growth in this area is occurring a little bit sooner than we anticipated. So because of that, we are looking at introducing a new north-south collector road to kind of allow for some better traffic movement in that area. We do have a figure here that shows an approximate proposed location. So kind of the northernmost boundary there would be on Veterans Memorial, and then the southernmost would be down there on 600 South. So as you can kind of see, it does run parallel to Concord there, and just east and west of that, you have some kind of anticipated development, as well as some other potential development that could be occurring in this area that's not even shown yet, that this collector could serve. Okay. So with that, we do want to note that it is important that there is limited driveway access along Veterans Memorial. So because of that, this intersection, will help provide some of that key access. And because it was not identified in the 2050 MTP or thoroughfare plan, we would like to designate it through this amendment so that we can kind of get it in our plan and have things ready to go. Eventually to get it into the comprehensive plan, but this will be the first step in order to get it into our comprehensive plan, is getting it into the MTP and the thoroughfare plan. So I will take any questions that you have on this. Just for the time being, I'll put up the map. Well, hearing no questions, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval of this collector to the policy board.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So with that, all those in favor of recommending this amendment to the policy board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much. I would like to note, just for the record, that Adam Keister has joined us in progress. So thank you, Adam. Okay. So with that, our next agenda item is an update from David regarding the Amtrak proposed passenger rail service increase. So David.
Good afternoon, David Hiddle with the Area Plan Commission. This is a very quick informational item, kind of a update on a meeting that was held a couple weeks ago, convened by the City of Lafayette, attended by Lafayette, West Lafayette, the Chamber, the Commissioners, APC, and some other interested parties, and along with Amtrak. And it was to discuss the opportunity that is in place right now for a big pot of passenger rail funding, an unprecedented amount, actually. And the upshot of the meeting was that the There's going to be an effort to get the band back together from about 10 years ago when Tippecanoe County and its resources were largely responsible for the Hoosier State Line lasting as long as it did. There was a study done in 2019, commissioned by NDOT with some input from Lafayette, Greater Lafayette stakeholders that identifies an opportunity to, if not resuscitate the Hoosier State Line, then to bring back that field of service, basically from Indianapolis to Chicago, in a meaningful way. This time, hopefully avoiding the cause of death, which was terrifically poor performance from Amtrak in the previous go-around. So from that initial meeting, there's been a determination that there should be another one, and will involve elected officials and Indianapolis MPO and NDOT multimodal leadership to talk about next steps and potentially going after that, again, unprecedented level of funding for an Indianapolis to Chicago real passenger rail route. So very informational. You can have questions. I don't know if I can answer them, but this is just something to put on your radar to let you know we'll be talking about it down the road some more. So are there any questions? Awesome. Thank you.
All right, certainly something that's very exciting to see. So I think, as the Area Plan Commission, we're definitely glad anytime we can get some more multimodal options for the community. So that's pretty awesome. So then our next thing is kind of another informational item. This is something that we sort of look at, and we haven't shared this information in a while, so we thought it would be good just to drop in an update. So what you're looking at is a graphic that shows the commuting trends for Tippecanoe County. So people who, live in the county but work elsewhere, or people who live elsewhere but work in the county. And this information is based on Indiana tax returns for the year 2020. So that's the source of information. And kind of generally the takeaway here is that Carroll County is the most significant contributor to sending people who don't live in Tippecanoe County to work in Tippecanoe County, whereas out of state is barely ahead of Marion County in terms of people who live here in Tippecanoe County but work elsewhere. We do overall have many more people coming into the community for employment than we do who live in the community that are employed elsewhere. We also, in addition to these graphics that are shown, we do have this kind of in tabular form, and this shows more of a historical trend, so you can kind of track it year to year. Starting in 2010 is the bottom row there. It might be a little bit hard to read on the screen, it's kind of small, but it was distributed in the packet and is available online. So there's some pretty good information here. We thought it'd be good to give you guys an update on this. Are there any questions? All right, I'll take that as a no. So we can go ahead and move on to our next item then, which is the South Street crash heat map. So this is something that our senior transportation planner, Doug Pode, put together as part of an ongoing effort for a road safety audit that we're doing on South Street between Sagamore Parkway and Interstate 65. We're interested in looking at this corridor for several reasons, specifically to kind of try to make it more multimodal, make it more transit-friendly, more pedestrian-friendly. Those are a couple of the big goals, as well as trying to look at maybe doing some reconstruction and just improving safety overall. So what you can kind of see from looking at this is that there's kind of a very obvious largest hot spot right there in the middle of the map, which is the intersection of Creasy Lane and South Street there. So that's not really a surprise to any of us, I think, who have driven on there, but I think this graphic really does a great job of highlighting, just exactly how much of a problem that is, even compared to other intersections. And, there are several others as well that do have a somewhat significant crash issue. There aren't as many issues mid-block, at least not along the western part of the corridor, but as you get close to I-65 there, it's almost continuous. You could almost look at that as a continuous line with all those access drives and all those businesses. So additionally, kind of one other area I want to highlight is the right turns off of the interstate on the interchange there. Those are also fairly significant as well. We see a lot of rear-end crashes along this corridor. So that's by far the prevailing crash type. So we're going to continue to proceed with this road safety audit, do some more analysis. Once the weather turns better, we're going to get out there and do some field work, but we wanted to share this information as kind of a little bit of a teaser and an update as to what we've been doing so far in preparation for that future road safety audit. Are there any questions about this information?
Do you have a guess what the traffic count on that road is?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. It does, depend where exactly you're looking, right? So it easily can get in the 20,000s in several places, yeah.
I just wondered.
I'm not sure if we have any that break 30. I haven't looked at it too closely myself. Doug might be able to better answer that, but yeah, it's at least in the 20s. Okay, any further questions on this before we go on to the next item?
Not a question, but I'm sure NDOT will be with you on this one. We certainly are going to want to be involved as we get down by 65, right? And yeah, that's an issue. So thank you.
Yeah, we've started to put together a stakeholder list for who we would want to invite. So I think we definitely have Tim Watson on our list, as well as maybe a couple other NDOT people. But we're willing to add people. If you have someone else that you think would be good, we'll happily.
We did a road safety audit recently with State Road 26, and I think the right people from NDOT were on that one, so you could probably copy that invite list to be good. I think Tom Ford was an additional person.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank
you. That's some good feedback, Scott. We appreciate that. Okay. So then going on to our next item. So as this committee knows, we are in the process of developing our transportation improvement program. We do this every 2 years. And as part of that, we have gotten a draft project list. So the first draft project list that you see here that's on the screen right now is NDOT's project list. So they sent this to us, and then we kind of broke it down into several different items. You can see the phasing breakdown, as well as anticipated fiscal year when some of these projects are going to take place. I don't think it's necessarily worth our time to pick through this project by project, but I will say that there is a significant amount of work going on. Several of these are bridge projects. We do have some significant bridge work planned for the community, as well as some other good things. We do have a drainage project on State Road 28, as you can see. We have some work planned on US 52 and I-65. Kind of continuing to scroll through this, you see some more bridge projects here. We see an HMA overlay on 52 and a couple bridges. So the State Road 225 project, which has gathered some local interest here because that road is currently closed. So we know that there are some plans to proceed with that. So we have gotten some questions about that, and we've been referring people to this draft list, mentioning that nothing is quite finalized yet, but this is the most current information we have. And then I also want to call some attention to the I-65 project. This is a pretty significant project, as you can see. So we have that. And then there are also several projects on this last page that are some of the district-wide projects that include a portion in Tippecanoe County. So these are things like signal installation, signing. There's something for the Traffic Management Center, some ITS stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So really a lot of work going on by our partners at NDOT. And again, I do want to mention that this list is not final, but we did receive it from NDOT, so we are just presenting it. We have presented this at our Citizens Participation Committee, and once we have some more finalized information, we will continue to spread that to the public, as well as sharing any amendments to this committee. during the 2-year life cycle of the TIP. So any questions about NDOT's list before I move on to our local project list or comments? Okay, so we also got some really good feedback from the local government engineers about what sorts of projects that they might be interested in. And you can see there are several projects. This is, just looking at the city of Lafayette, they have several things they're interested in doing, including the Big Four Trail. So that's one that personally I'm excited about. I'm, kind of glad to see that everyone's interested in sort of planting the flag on that and getting something in place so that we can start to make that corridor a reality here in the community, as well as several other really good projects that we have. Some of these work has already started on some of these are going to be new. The city of West Lafayette, we do have Cherry Lane, Cumberland Avenue, and a very, very significant Soldiers Home Road project, which has several phases. So that is something that we're looking at as well. For Tippecanoe County, a lot of these projects are ongoing, several bridge projects as well, kind of similar to NDOT, so a lot of bridge work going on in the community. There is a new trail that is being proposed near Harrison High School on 600 North and 50 West, as well as the big Morehouse Road project that's coming up, which will be split into 2 phases. And there's a lot of bridge replacement projects. City Bus does have a few projects. These are their operating assistance and capital projects. So that funding comes through FTA. So it's not necessarily directly competing with the other local jurisdictions per se. It's kind of a separate pot of money. But we do always list their projects in the TIP. So those are pretty important. I did also want to mention that, again, this is a preliminary project list. This is not something that has been finalized. We do not have enough money to do all these projects. So kind of from a timeline perspective, at our next meeting, at our January meeting, we will be trying to prioritize and financially constrain our TIP. So that'll be a pretty big exercise. And so we're looking forward to working with all of you on that. We will have kind of an initial proposal, so to speak, for how we think those dollars might be best allocated, but we're absolutely going to take questions, comments, concerns, and revisions at the January meeting. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that that's kind of in the pipeline, and that we are, working on this and tracking this. And again, we just wanted to spread out the initial information so that it's out there and we're getting the word out. Any questions? Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our last item, which is the 18-month letting list. So I'm going to start with the bid letting results. So we did have a couple of US 231 projects, an HMA overlay and an auxiliary passing lane project. Unfortunately, their project was not awarded. The bids were above the engineer's estimate. So that sort of thing does happen. So that project, I believe, will be rebid, and we will see what happens with that. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more favorable bids next time. But there was a new signal installation along US 52 that was awarded to Midwestern Electric LLC. The project was over the engineer's estimate, but it is under $1 million total. So because of that, it was considered awardable. So that project was awarded. Other than that, kind of going back up the list, you will notice that a lot of the projects on this list are kind of in the same state that they were last time we reported on this. We are getting ready to have a pretty significant, or excuse me, we have already had a pretty significant letting earlier in the month on the 7th. So several projects, including the McCutcheon Pedestrian Safety Project that started, and then we do have a couple projects slated for next month as well on the January 19th letting, including Yeager Road. And then kind of the biggest change here that you see on this first page is that this US 52 project, these auxiliary lanes, that was moved back from a March letting to an April letting. So we'll see how that project continues to develop. And then other than that, most projects are going to be in the next fiscal year after that April letting window. You know, once you start seeing that July letting window, that puts us into fiscal year '24. So several things there that we're kind of tracking as well, but not too many changes at this point in time to report on. But I will pause and take any questions or comments about any of the projects. Okay, well, we are not, I guess we don't have any comments. So before that, then we will go ahead and go on to other business. Is there any other business that anyone would like to bring before the committee? Okay, well, hearing none, we will go on to our next section, which is citizen comments. Are there any comments from any of the citizens in the room? All right, there are no comments. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and we look forward to seeing you next month when we have the big tip activity going on.